but try to make it as short as possible as we have only 15 more minutes to.
You've indicated that you agree with the theory that the beloved disciple of John was probably Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, why would they have Lazarus kind of around in the book? You know, I'm always puffed up as the beloved disciple, always mentioned that way. When people thought it was John, they thought John was the founder of a sect, and so they were, kind of trying to build him up when he knew Jesus, and Jesus loved him best.
Well, there's always confusion over which John they meant. But you have to realize that the John we have is multiply redacted. It's actually an edit. So passages have been placed out of order. Things have been removed. Things have been added. So what I suspect is that Lazarus being the beloved disciple was in the original script, but it got edited so much that some of the more obvious indicators of that and the purpose of it got edited out because it wasn't important, but the other stuff got left in. And so it's hard to reconstruct what the author originally meant because we're looking at multiple authors operating over multiple periods of time meddling with this document. So that's difficult. But, it does say, in John 11 that Lazarus is the one whom Jesus loved. Right. It just never uses the word disciple of him, even though he's hanging around with them and is resting on his bosom at all the dinners and stuff. So, the evidence for this is pretty strong. Like, there's so many parallels. There's just no way that the original author of those passages did not mean the beloved disciple was anyone other than Lazarus. But then it got edited out repeatedly, and somehow John got assigned to this. And the assumption is, and this is an error, so first of all, they assigned John as the supposed source of the document, which then became confused as the author of the document. But in fact, the Gospel of John actually says that they're using, the beloved disciple did not write the Gospel of John. They say that he wrote something that is their source. So the authors speak in the plural. They say, we know this is true because so-and-so wrote this thing. So they're referring to some other previous document, which is probably fictional. They're probably making that up because Lazarus is fictional, unless there was some previous gospel that was that they misattributed to Lazarus as a fictional character. Like, who knows? So it's difficult to reconstruct what was really going on in the minds of the original authors of this. But what was your question in particular as to why?
Well, I guess if there's a point why they would have Lazarus continue to be around and continue to be highlighted as...
Well, if you notice in the Gospel of John, Lazarus has become the reason the Jews kill Jesus. Okay. Right? So, and I talk about this On the Historicity of Jesus. The whole... One thing John does that's different from the other Gospels is that he's all about, oh, look, all this evidence is true and you should believe it because this stuff is true. So he's very much all about, this stuff proves the religion true. That wasn't actually the theme in the previous Gospels. And he has the whole thing with Lazarus, the resurrection of Lazarus convinces everyone that Jesus is the Messiah. So the Jews says, well, we got to get rid of Jesus now because he's too famous because of the resurrection of Lazarus. That's all going on, but you notice that Lazarus comes from Luke in a parable. So in Luke, Jesus talks about the parable of Lazarus. Lazarus is the beggar that the rich man wouldn't give alms to, and so when they both end up in different areas of the afterlife, Lazarus is resting in the bosom of Abraham. Well, now Lazarus is resting in the bosom of Jesus. That's a deliberate intention there. And Abraham is deciding who gets saved or not, and Jesus is deciding who gets saved or not. But the whole message is that the rich man is in hell, and he's reaching up to Lazarus and begging Lazarus, say, hey, to Abraham, he's like, Abraham, can you resurrect Lazarus so that he can go tell my brothers that this is all true so they won't end up burning in hell with me? And Abraham says, no, if they don't believe the scriptures, then they won't believe a resurrected Lazarus, so I'm not going to raise him. And the whole parable is about why there isn't any evidence for the things that they're claiming. That, well, the scriptures should be good enough. You don't believe the scriptures, the evidence isn't going to convince you. So the parable is all...
I gotta cut. Yeah, because we have 15 more minutes, so...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
And then what does John do? He turns Lazarus into a real... He has Lazarus actually rise from the dead, actually convince people, and therefore he's refuting the parable of Lazarus in Luke. So that's the whole intention of it. And then, of course, to have him the author of the source that they're relying on is just... adds to the whole point. Like, this stuff is true, you should believe it. So it's the whole mission of the author to sort of sell that point. It's completely a lie, but that's the goal.